In 1984, Brian Gibson was a young filmmaker looking for his big break. Psychic Jill Cook told the director he wouldn't have to wait long.
I went to New York and I read this young producer named Brian Gibson. And I said, you're going to get your first movie. And it's not what you think. It's going to be a movie, a spiritual movie. He didn't believe me. I was like, you're just telling me what I want to hear.
I met Jill Cook some months earlier through a producer in New York called Jill Paperno. And then I kind of forgot about it.
In the spring of 1985, Jill Cook's prediction came true.
Brian Gibson had been recommended to us as a director to look at by the studio, and we saw he'd done one small film, Breaking Glass, for the BBC, and Brian came in and we just hit it off with him.
I think he told us in his initial interview that he had been told by a psychic that he would get the job of director of Poltergeist 2, and we
didn't trust him when he said that. We thought, okay, he's just crazy enough to do this.
Gibson got the job and immediately called Jill Cook.
He said, I got a movie and I want you to help. I'm like, oh, that's great. I'd love to help. What's the movie? He said, Poltergeist 2. I went, oh, my God. I absolutely loved the movie, the original, the first one.
Cook was signed as the film's official psychic advisor. She began consulting with the filmmakers over the phone.
I think what we'd like to do is get guidance on this idea that we've just started to talk about. But do you think it would be a good idea to kind of just do a reading?
I'm going to begin with a prayer because I believe in the power of prayer. And I believe if you ask, you shall receive. And if you knock, the door shall be opened. And if you seek, ye shall find.
What I would do is mostly concentrate on the spiritual side of it, how realistic that is. When I received the original script, the ending was they killed the spirit with a baseball bat. And I laughed. I said, well, the ending's no good. You can't kill a spirit with a baseball bat. So that we worked on the ending.
Cook may have hated the ending, but she loved a new character who was added to the Poltergeist mix, a mystical shaman named Taylor. The writers based the role on a friend of actor Craig T. Nelson.
The character of the Indian was really inspired by Craig's relationship with an Indian that he had met when he lived in Mount Shasta. That the guy had revealed to him quite a bit spiritually and that he had grown a bit from it.
Creating the character of Taylor was easy. Finding an actor that fit the part was a bit more difficult.
I wanted an authentic American Indian. I wanted someone who was a good actor, who had a sort of power, personal and spiritual power about them.
I know Brian had a hard time casting that role, and they looked at a ton of people.
Well, we had a lot of people come in for the part of the Indian in Poltergeist 2. Just about every actor in town was coming in claiming that he was at least part Indian, including Dennis Hopper, who claimed he was an Apache or something.
Gibson called upon his psychic advisor for help.
Brian talked to me about hiring the actors. He'd give me a list of names of actors to pick. I really didn't know who the actors were. I don't know at the time when they'd say a name who this person was. I just write them down and say no, no, and then I would say, well, this person's this. I'd give comments on some of the people, and some I'd just say no and go on.
Cook zeroed in on one candidate, Will Sampson. The actor was best known for his role in the 1975 movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I picked him because he's a spiritual master. I knew his heart. And that's what when I read people, I read their heart.
The filmmakers were skeptical until they met Sampson in person.
When Will Sampson came in, he was the real McCoy, and he was, in fact, the shaman for several tribes, I've been told. And he just was the character, and it wasn't even a question.
The psychic made believers out of the filmmakers. They were so thrilled, they asked Jill to find an actor to play the part of the evil minister Cain. The psychic picked Julian Beck, author Makita Brotman.
Julian Beck was a very well-known actor. In fact, he was most well-known for his work in theatre. He and his wife, Judith Molina, had started this very famous theatre group called the Living Theatre.
But Jill wasn't interested in the actor's resume.
I said that he needs to do this for a soul. I knew he wasn't going to live long. And I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I had no pictures, nothing. And so that was sort of, something I knew spiritually was right for this man. I knew that this would be the last movie he would do. I know these kind of things.
He's very ill. I don't think would normally have done something like that if he hadn't been so ill, but he was saving a little for posterity, I think.
I talked to him a little about why, being so ill, he wanted to do this very taxing role, because he knew he was dying. And he said it was to rid himself of certain things. That in playing the role of the epitome of fear, the epitome of death, the epitome of evil, that it would give him a kind of courage.
I'll never forget the first reading when everyone was sitting around casually reading their parts and their lines, and all of a sudden Julian Beck spoke out, and the level of everything and everyone around it all of a sudden just went up. It was like, uh-oh, we better get into this seriously now and pay attention, because this guy is really powerful.
Just before filming of Poltergeist 2 kicked off, psychic Jill Cook made one final prediction.
I made the prediction there would be 3 Poltergeist films and no more. Little did I know why, but I just knew there'd be 3. But now I know why.
In the fall of 1985, Poltergeist 2 wrapped, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief.
There were some strange things that happened, and there were more strange things that happened than happen on most movies. So it was a marvelous kind of end of school, end of task feeling about the last day of shooting.
Brian Gibson wrote me a beautiful thank you letter, wanted to verify that I am gifted and that I am truly helpful, and I got a good heart.
Sadly, another of Jill Cook's premonitions came to pass a few months after filming wrapped. On September 17, 1985, actor Julian Beck succumbed to cancer. As Cook predicted, Julian survived only long enough to finish Poltergeist 2.